Hello everyone. Hope you've all had. Honestly, I can't even be bothered to start how we usually do because today's not been a great day. If you've been paying attention to what's happening out in BC, and of course I'm talking about the shooting where I believe it's 9 children, and 9 children have died and 25 are injured. I think it's the second or third worst shooting in Canadian history, in modern Canadian history. I mean, even Parliament decided to take a day off. They canceled any kind of political machinations that were set for today, which we'll get into. But I guess just for the sake of keeping up with the intro, if you want to support the stream, you can always just like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate anyone and everyone that even watches this, so thank you for that. If you want to go a step further or have a question that you'd like answered on stream, then you can send a donation either to the PayPal link or the crypto link, both of which I only read at the end of stream. I don't typically read chat unless it's something important. But yeah, if you want to support the stream, you can do that. And I also have a referral link that I've started with Proton. If you like their products, check it out. It's in the description. And I guess, yeah, before we get into it, some new additions for the list, some new judges and deportations that have to happen for people that have been overstaying their welcome in Canada. But honestly, as much as I'd love to go into that, I really don't think I have it in me because this is just it's too pressing of a matter to talk about stories like this, even though this is important. We'll put a pause on that today. I'll go over it on Friday, but there's new additions to the list, so you can check it out there. I've updated some things with it. And once again, as a reminder for anyone that doesn't know, the list is just it contains certain political actions that have to be taken if we're to return to any semblance of Canada First. So laws and policies. It's organized by judges that have to be fired. A list of people we have to deport, so criminals that overstay or commit heinous enough crimes and still have their citizenship intact, even though if they're not citizens. Scandals and also brands to boycott. But we'll get into all that another day, because for today, we have a completely avoidable situation. Right now Parliament is taking a break because they don't want to get into politics, and there's been a lot of people that have been talking about this on Twitter and elsewhere, saying that we need to not politicize this. We need to not make it political. This strategy can't be used to advance any political agenda. Which, fine, fair enough. I understand that reaction, right? Wanting to take a beat, to take a day to think things over. There's some wisdom in that. I understand that and I respect that. But it behooves me to point out the fact that this was 100% avoidable. That absolutely none of this needed to happen. Those 10 kids could still be alive today if Canada wasn't in the place where it is now. Which I understand that as an individual to say something like that, it's very presumptive. It gives off very, if I had my way, if I was in charge, I would have done it differently. That's not at all the energy that I'm going at it with. What I mean to say is that the precursors that allow for something like this to happen, they exist in Canada, just like they exist in the United States. There's in this ephemeral world, right? Just go with me here. There's a ticking time bomb, right, for every single one of these incidents. Whether it's a mass shooting, what have you, they happen every couple of years. It was only like not even 5 years ago we had the Yonge Street van attack, where this incel chud rammed through dozens of people. There was an incident, I think I was out west in BC. They had a festival for the Filipinos, where this guy ran into another crowd, killing like I think 6 or 7 people. Right. We also had an incident on Halloween a couple years back where a guy walking around with a ninja sword was actually like hurting people. I think he killed 2. Right. So we have these incidents just like the U.S. does, where these people either with a gun or with another weapon, they either lose their sanity or they mean to harm as many people as possible for a stated objective. This problem is not unique to the U.S. Canada has these incidents too. They're just not as openly talked about, and they don't happen as frequently. Right, but this one right here, this incident of the transsexual shooter, this could have been completely avoided. This did not need to happen. This could have been just a figment of our imagination, and yet tonight there will be parents going to sleep without their children. That entire school is going to be plagued by this incident. That entire region is going to be plagued by this for years to come, just like Columbine is. Right? These people are going to have to go on the rest of their lives seeing what they saw and experiencing what they did. It's going to fundamentally change them for the rest of their life. Some for the good, some for the bad. I mean, that's a whole other discussion. You know, it's neither here nor there, but they will change. They will fundamentally change. Their innocence was robbed, and not just of the people that were alive, but of the people slaughtered. I mean, this guy killed his own fucking family. He killed his own mom and his brother. You know, and facts are still coming out about the shooting, and what we know of his online activity is there for everyone to see, and we'll be digging into that. Because as always with these kind of incidents, these sick and twisted freaks, they find a home online and they find people, even if they're not near them, to support them in this, to talk them through this. And it will always, always lead to some kind of tragic event. Almost always. This right here, this shooting incident, this is a symptom of a problem. It's not the whole problem, but it's certainly one of the major symptoms. Let me just take a look at my script here. Okay. Just to start, as a general point, just like the last episode that I did, right? This is yet another reason to add to the list of why leftism must be, as best as we can, to the best of our abilities, be destroyed and removed and sequestered to the fringe edges of society. That is the only way that we can avoid incidents like this. There's no amount of gun control, no amount of what they're going to call sensible legislation that is going to fix this. These people will find a way. Right? And when I say these people, right, when I'm talking in these generalizations, I'm saying that on average, okay, 40% of all transsexuals, regardless of their transition or not, will have suicidal tendencies. 40% of them. And this man, right, this fucking piece of shit, as you'll see shortly, because I have plenty of receipts, he was on a cocktail of drugs that would make any rational 20-year-old go crazy. This guy burned his house down after a mushroom trip. Diagnosed with 4 disorders. Ate 3 grams of shrooms and burnt his house down. Talking about taking doses of DMT. This guy was committed to a psych ward previously was put on SSRIs, on HRT, right? Their hormone replacement therapy. What does that kind of cocktail do to the psyche? How much can you hang on if you're not even 20 and you're doped up as it is? Right? The only way that this is even an experience for a 17-year-old in a country like Canada is if it's allowed. If this is permitted. If people feel open enough to even explore these thoughts. But the problem is that we're letting them. We're helping them entertain this fantasy that men can be women and women can be men, and this is the result. I mean, even if it's 1%, right? Like, let's say it's 1% of these people that commit this kind of atrocity on this kind of level, that have this kind of hatred for society, hatred for themselves. This can't exist in our society. We can't allow it to be in our education system. We can't give them a whole month to celebrate. We can't be allowing for this. I don't understand what part of this is so hard for the conservative right in Canada to understand. How this is not a major talking point. Right? We saw like those shootings happen in the US, and yes, once again, these are 1 in a million. Yes, these incidents are extremely scarce, and they do not compare, right, to the regular mass shootings of schools where these kids are doped up on SSRIs, right? The percentages is not even close. I understand that, right? I understand that. But that's not the point that I'm making. The point that I'm making is that the fact that an individual, a child, is able to take this path in Canada, be openly celebrated, be supported, and not at any point be told, hey, maybe reconsider this, maybe fucking burning down your house, maybe that's kind of the last straw, maybe you need to rethink your life, or institutionalized. I mean, for fuck's sake, the cops, right, as I'll be showing video of later, they've had incidents with this house. They've known of them. They've confiscated their guns before. This whole thing was completely preventable. Those 10 kids didn't need to die. They're like a fucking coward turns the gun on themselves. Of course, they always do. They always do. Because then reality sets in and they realize exactly what they've done and they can't live with themselves. Or for one reason or another. God, this is just so, like, it's exactly why I didn't want to cover any other topics, because this is what's going to keep happening in Canada in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, as all of these people that have gone through these transitions, that load themselves up on the SSRIs, the HRT, this is the kind of reaction they're going to have. You can't be, right, you can't have a mental affliction like the one that tells you fundamentally you're in the wrong body, and then take this cocktail of drugs that God knows what is happening, right? God knows what kind of recreational drugs you're on, how your brain reacts to them, whether you decide to do DMT, LSD, what have you, and then what conclusions you come to. You can't be in an unstable frame of mind and then take mushrooms and expect it's going to fix you. That's not how this works. They're not some magic pill that you can take and then that's it. You right the ship. Plenty of people take high doses and have like legit episodes on weed alone, let alone fucking SSRIs, and combining all of this. Where are the fucking parents, man? Unbelievable. God, you know what? Maybe it's not my place to blame the parents. I don't know their life situation. I don't know the personal story of the family. I've heard rumors, but I'd rather not mention them because it's uncorroborated. You know, people in the community are apparently tight-knit. It's a very small community, so that's why it's shocking them even more. But I mean, there's social media posts of the mom talking about how she supports the LGBT agenda and she's all for trans stuff. Yeah, because she encouraged it. And this is the exact problem, that this can't be encouraged. This idea has to be strangled in the crib. You can't allow for these kind of ideas to exist to the best extent possible. We can't popularize them. They shouldn't be taught in schools. This has no place anywhere near children. You turn 18, 19, do whatever the fuck you want with your body. Smoke till your lungs are black and crisp. Drink till your veins are filled with liquor. Right? Do whatever the fuck you want. You're an adult. You can ruin your own life. But setting up kids in their most, like, arguably their most vulnerable stage, right? When they're getting a sense of agency, right? Believing to understand what that means, and then mixing this cocktail of drugs. Meanwhile, everyone around them is so super supportive. Everybody waves the pride flag. In many school districts, it flies along with the Canadian one, right beside it. The TV shows, the announcements by the government, all the funding that goes to the pride parades, all of it, okay, all of it is a symptom of a problem. And the problem is that this kind of ideology, this kind of belief that men can be women and women can be men, this is fundamentally incongruent with what a society should be. It is not at all a rule set that will lead you towards the path of success. That will lead a civilization, more importantly, to the path of success. This is suicidal empathy. Because now any fucking Tom, Dick, and Harry can get up on a soapbox and say, I declare my pronouns, and you have to forcibly, right, by law, you have to call these people their pronouns. And you know what? For all the shit that Jordan Peterson got for you know, his stance on Israel now with Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire, the man was right at the beginning, right? When he was a simple UFT prof talking about the forcing of pronouns, this is exactly where it leads to. You know, people laughed at him, they ridiculed him, saying, how the fuck can you make a generalization? That this is exactly where it will lead to the point where people believe in their identity so much that they will encourage a child to transition, to cut off their breasts, to go on hormone replacement therapy. How could it possibly lead to a world like that? Well, the way that it led to here, right, the way that we got here is the moment that you start compelling speech, the moment that you start telling people you have to affirm my identity by law and you can't disagree with me on that, now we're just making shit up. Now we're just saying, I want to be called this, therefore this is the reality. Today I'm Sam, tomorrow I'm Sandra. The moment that we accept that as a reality, the moment that we accept that we're fine with that as Canadians, as a people, that's the moment everything else just goes out the window. Because if you can compel somebody to call you by a different pronoun, and that if they don't call you that they're not only being a bigot, but that they're actually harming your human rights, your means to exist, the moment that happens, that turns into a legal precedent, you are now objectively setting up your judicial system to run by laws that have no basis in reality. And just to give you an example, right, for those that don't know, because the trans issue is covered in the US a lot more than it is in Canada, because it's very under the radar here, right? It comes out during Pride Month, and every now and then we hear of one of these incidents, these lawsuits of people not being able to call their own, you know, not being called by their pronouns. There was an incident out west. I think it was in Alberta or Manitoba somewhere, right? I'll look it up here in a second. But there was an incident where a father lost custody of their child, underage, I think like maybe 12 or 14. They were considering the transition. The father and mother got divorced, and the kid was spending split time at the houses. When the father got a whiff of it, he's like, hey, how's about we slow down on this? How's about we reconsider? Maybe wait till they're 18, and then they can, you know, once they go through puberty, they can actually consider this. She took him to court for custody. The wife took him to court. In the lawsuit, it came out that the teachers were also helping them with the transition process, giving them information and whatnot. And then the court ruled that not only did the dad not have custody, but that he wasn't legally allowed to talk to the press about it. He got a gag order placed on him. So he loses his child and he can't even tell anyone about it. The only reason that we know of this is because he spoke on terms of anonymity to some people that were making a documentary, and then they looked into it and they found that it was a real case. And let me pull up the facts here. Fuck, this story is years old. So the fact that we're dealing with this shooting, once again, symptom of a problem that's been growing in Canada as an open secret for years now. For years. People have been raising alarms over this. We need to slow down. We need to stop. We can't let kids do this. You want to be an adult? Fine. Fine. Who gives a shit? You can jump off a cliff for all I fucking care. But leave the kids out of this. So let's look up the case. Where a father lost custody of his child that was working on transitioning. Yeah, AB versus CD from British Columbia. In this family law dispute, the child, a teenager who was assigned female at birth but identified as a male, sought hormone therapy as part of transitioning. The mother supported the treatment, but the father strongly opposed it, arguing against irreversible steps and attempting to block or deny it. The courts, the BC Supreme Court and later the BC Court of Appeal, ruled that the child was a mature minor. Not just a minor, a mature minor, capable of consenting to the treatment under the BC's Infants Act. This meant that the child could proceed with gender-affirming care, right? Notice they call it gender-affirming. Okay, because here's the problem with that. Any problem that I go to the doctor, right? Let's say I go to work at a construction site, accidentally, shoot a nail through my hand. I go to the doctor and I tell him, hey, I have a nail in my hand. Please take it out. His initial response isn't, oh, how come, you're not identifying as the man with a nail in his hand? You can totally just identify as that. Right? They don't affirm the problem. They don't say, okay, well, you got this problem. Let me help you. Do you want another nail in another hand? Like, is this just kind of a? They don't do that. They take the fucking nail out. This gender stuff, the transsexualism, this is one of the only, if not the only condition where the doctors, they don't even question it. The moment that you're sitting down and talking to them with this, they're like, okay, no, we believe you. If you say that you feel like a woman, then you must be a woman. That's how this proceeds. They don't even question it. At no point do these practitioners actually stop and slow down and maybe have some questions for the child. No, they call it affirming care. Affirming, because every step of the way, they are affirming this. The father's attempts to intervene were rejected, and he was barred from certain actions like publicly discussing details of the case under publication bans or in some initial rulings from using the child's birth name / pronouns in ways deemed harmful. He couldn't even call his fucking child by their own name. What they know as dead naming. They couldn't call them by their old name. The government enacted that. And when the government says something, okay, they do it at the end of a barrel of a gun. Or jail time, right? They're not actually going to kill him, but if you break the law, okay, great. So there's a consequence. There's a direct consequence of that. The lower court initially classified the father's opposition, including misgendering or dead naming, as akin to family violence. Remember when I mentioned that speech is violence, that leftists compare speech to violence? This is the exact same fucking thing. This is coming from the exact same wing. This is what they believe in. They believe that speaking against their sense of reality is violence upon them. You're inflicting violence upon these people just by speaking. The father later faced contempt charges and brief jail time, later reduced on appeal, for violating court publication bans by publicly discussing the case and identifying the child. So you just wake up one day, your child is taken away from you, and then not only that, but the court rules that any speech that you make against that, you can't even plead your case to the public. You can't even go out in the court of public opinion and say anything about it. That's why every documentary appearance that this guy made was either through a phone or through a blacked out camera. We don't know who it is to this day. And for those thinking, oh, that's just an AI summary. No, here's multiple articles. Court backs trans teen who feared being stranded by father's bid to stop transition. There's fucking 29 links here. No, this is not it. That's some Montana shit. Here's the actual Court of Appeal filing. Okay, this, like, I'm not making this up. The reason that I show all this is to just show, like, this isn't fake. Global news, BC's father attempt to stop child's gender transition tossed out by appeal court. Why the fuck do the courts get to decide this? Why is this in any way involving the government? This has nothing to do with them. This is between two parents. They need to work it out. So, this is why, okay, this is why this case, this shooting is important, because Canada's entire system, our cultural system, or institution, rather, the cultural institutions, the judicial institution, the education institutions, all of them, they are of a single mind when it comes to this. Every university that you go to will have pride flags everywhere. Just about every business that you walk into will have a sign outside saying everyone is welcome with a pride flag. Everyone is complicit in this. So this issue, this is not going away. This is going to keep happening. We are going to see more incidents of this. Because what happens, like I said at the beginning of the show, fundamentally, right, to take away all these stories and everything that I mentioned before, fundamentally, what is it? It's a boy or a girl, right, as a teenager, going through a monumental shift in their biology, right, puberty. Them getting influenced one way or another through the internet, through their own thoughts, through their classmates, through their teachers on occasion, their parents maybe, some stuff they see on TV for one reason or another, right? Maybe something they learned in class. They're now interacting with this idea. Some of these kids, some of them, are autistic or they're gay, which is a lot of these trans kids. As you saw, right? Or actually, I haven't shown this yet. I haven't even shown any of the receipts regarding the mother. She was talking about her kid at 7 years old on Facebook groups. That when it's playtime, he loves to run, scream, squawk, and sometimes he hurts his siblings. Like, just a kid that's just all over the place. That the school wants him tested for behavioral disorder, right? These types of kids. They get placed on fucking ADHD meds, SSRIs if they're depressed, and then if they get this idea into their head regarding their sexuality and they start questioning it, they might get enough support from their parents to actually start taking HRT or some other drugs. Right? So what happens to the frame of mind of somebody that's already going through something like that, right? That psychologically it's affecting them deeply, this idea that they don't belong in their body. I can't even imagine what that feels like, but it certainly wouldn't make you feel calm, right? They don't talk about it as a euphoric experience, gender dysmorphia. Doesn't sound like a fun time. And then you combine that with a cocktail of drugs, SSRIs. Maybe they're smoking weed, and weed now is way stronger than it used to be. Way stronger. And you can get it fucking easily. Just get a kid that's old enough for you, or just order it online. Buy some. If you get a Visa card, right? This isn't a tutorial, but anybody with a fucking 2 brain cells can figure this out. If you just buy a prepaid Visa, and you have like some address, whether it's a business, a PO box, what have you, you can just buy mail order marijuana in Canada without having to show ID. And with fake AI, like you could just make an ID. Kids will find a way. This weed that's psychosis inducing in a certain percentage of the population. Not to mention, this kid was also on fucking took 3 grams of shrooms, which for anyone that's ever done shrooms, you know that that's not a beginner dose. That's not just something you take on the second time. That's not something that you just dive into. Especially not if you're under 18. Right? So fundamentally, it's kids that are lost in some way, shape, or form because of their biology or their own thoughts or what have you. Right? They're lost. They get this cocktail of drugs into them. What's going to happen? You think they're going to just fit into society? They're just going to be a healthy, productive member? They're going to clock in at the office. They're going to go to graduation. They're going to have families. Like, no. None of this ever happens. We're lucky if they can hold a 9-to-5 job without going fucking schizo. And in a lot of ways, I feel bad for them. I'm not saying this to say that I feel bad for the shooter, but these kids that are going through this, in a way, I feel bad because they're being told this all around them. Can you imagine what it would be like to go through your teenage years now? And if you wanted to get attention at any moment, you just have to say, "Oh, I identify as the opposite sex," and people fucking clap for you. All of society applauds you. Anytime anyone attacks you, you can call them a transphobe. It's like this fucking, it's a golden shield for them. It's a life preserver. You get all this unearned social capital and this respect. If anyone goes against you, you have the law on your side to an extent that doesn't extend to any other people. Nobody else has these privileges. To go to human rights tribunals and say that somebody calling you something is somehow, it's violence. The court of BC ruled that it was an act of family violence for him to misgender his own kid. Are you fucking kidding me? Is it any wonder that something like this happens? And just to finish that, that thought off, I feel bad for them. I understand that these kids make a conscious choice to a certain extent, but they're also just kids, and they're subject to the wills of whatever's popular, or if they want to fit in. They're just figuring out the world, and now they have this whole aspect of them questioning their own personal identity. Of course, a bunch of them are going to make the wrong decision. That's what kids do. That's what your youth is for. You're supposed to make fucked up decisions, and then later on in your 20s, you're repaying them. But now we're talking about the kind of decisions that can lead you to shoot up a school. Nobody, here's the thing about school shootings. The majority of these shootings are perpetrated by people who are on a cocktail of drugs, SSRIs, marijuana, psychedelics, what have you. No well-meaning, well-adjusted person wakes up one day and thinks, gee, you know what I really want to do? I really feel like shooting up a school. Don't clip that. Please don't clip that. Nobody does that. No regular, average, everyday person. You have to be getting to a point where you think that that is the only option, or if you're just crazy enough that just makes sense. This doesn't happen to well-adjusted people. And if Canada is not careful, right? If we actually do not attack the issue where it is, and that is 100% in the direction of the fact that we need to cut out leftism from our society, we need to root it out, because this is exactly the byproduct of it. This suicidal empathy that we have. If we don't do that, we're doing a disservice to everybody that died, everybody that got injured, everybody that has to live with this for the rest of their life. And this is, once again, this is just the preamble to the story. I haven't even gotten into some of the main details. But this is so pervasive in Canadian society that people they're so used to it. It's like the boiling frog theory, right? I've brought this up before. We're just boiling in that water, and we don't feel anything because we're so desensitized. And this incident, I guarantee you, it will not be enough to shock people out of their system, to actually reconsider, to maybe think twice. Maybe we should change something in the curriculum. Maybe we need to make it so that you can't have this surgery underage. You have to be 19 to do it. Maybe we have to rethink our laws fundamentally. We can't have human rights be entangled in this because it's not a human right to transition. It really isn't. You want to do that on your own dime when you turn 18, 19? Fine, by all means. But until you turn that age, once, like I've said this before, your frontal lobe doesn't develop until you're 25, getting closer to 30 now. At 19, you can drive. At 19, you can drink in most provinces. You can smoke in most provinces. But at 16, we want to give kids the ability to, impressionable kids, the ability to cut off their tits, open up a gash where their penis used to be. And the only reason I'm being graphic is because that's exactly what happens. This is what they do. They literally snip the tits off. If we were to actually understand the situation, sorry, but I'm not sorry, we have to be graphic. To an extent, because that is the reality. For anybody that's seen South Park knows exactly what episode I'm talking about, where they talk about doing, I think it's a peniloplasty, where they actually show the operation and what happens to the penis when this happens. I encourage everyone to go watch it today. Go if you have 5-10 minutes, just Google it, right? Mr. Garrison turns into Mrs. Garrison or Miss Garrison, and go watch the intro to that episode. We should not be doing that to kids. We should not even be allowing it to happen to kids. None of that. Not the hormone replacement therapy, not the gender affirming care, not the surgeries, none of it. Let this whole show be an argument as to why that's actually bad. And initially with the shooting, let me just close some of these tabs here. Oh, these will come in handy in a little bit. But for now, that will come in handy later. I apologize. Sorry, bear with me for 1 second, folks. There we go. Initially, the RCMP response was, once again, this is just emblematic of why this is such a problem in Canada. They couldn't even refer to the gunman as a gunman. They had to say gun person.
That includes the deceased gun person.
Okay. And then separately, do you know the gun person's relationship to the
Gun person? Are you fucking kidding me? This is the time to be sensitive? Right? And I just by the look of that man's face, okay, I know this is assuming a lot, but I don't think the 50, 60, whatever, 40 something, he must be 60. I don't think that the 60-year-old RCMP sergeant is actually all that embracing of this. Of having to label a gunman who gunned down 10 fucking kids, man. Are you serious? 10 kids? You fucking vile piece of shit. Unbelievable. 10 kids? For what? Sorry, 9. My mistake. It's 9. God, I have no words. I don't know what kind of evil it would take to perpetrate something like that. It's utterly disgusting. They're never even they didn't even get a chance to graduate. They're never gonna. For many of them, probably never even had their first kiss. Never got to drive a car. Never got to see the world. To make their contributions on this planet. To be with their friends and family and make new friends and everything just snuffed out. Because a fucking troon hopped off their mind, decided that in some way, shape, or form, this was the right thing to do, and then to also kill their own family. I mean, fuck. I'm beside myself. I don't. How do you make sense of something like this? And what I mean by that is how do you make sense of the fact that we as Canadians, we created the society where this is possible? You know, it's almost impossible to pin the blame on an event like this on anyone besides the shooter. But if we're talking about secondary and tertiary consequences, right? The fact that we have such a climate in Canada where the federal police force is forced to say live on air as they're reporting on the incident, they have to call them a gun person. What does that tell you? If that's how it works at the top in case of a serious incident like this, what does that tell you about the rest of the institution and what kind of beliefs they uphold? It's just it's stunning that it even got this far. And so apparently, as a result of this, the premier was unsure if doctors were available on site.
Hi, this might be better targeted at BCEHS, but 12 hours ago, the biggest story here in Tumble Ridge was the fact that there was no coverage in the emergency room after 5 o'clock. I'm assuming that in a situation like this, there's exceptional coverage, but do you know what's happening with that? Are they going to bring in additional doctors, or is it, just going to be shipping people off to Dawson Creek and Fort St. John?
So the best information that we can share at this point is that BCEHS will be providing an update this evening about those 25 individuals who received various injuries, physical injuries today. I don't have any other information to share. The health center in Tumble Ridge is a small center. We had offers of assistance from Alberta. I know that there were medical evacuation services made available, air ambulance and so on, but I don't have any details about any of that, and I would encourage you to wait for the EHS update.
Trent, do you
No information on that. Yeah, it's literally like this is why these people are such a fucking joke. It's your fucking job. It's your job to figure this out. It's your job to have the answers before you go up to the podium. It's literally your job to get up in the middle of the night if you have to, and to have a response ready. It's your one fucking job. Right? Trudeau went on for 10 plus years talking about how his job and the job of the parliamentarians and all the people in government, the job of the Canadian government is to keep people safe, is to keep Canadians safe. Right? That's what we heard up and down during COVID. What the fuck is this? No update? You have no update? Nothing? You came unprepared? Really? Of all the times to come unprepared, this is when you choose it? And look, with all due respect, right? For anyone making the argument, oh, how long ago was this from the incident? It doesn't matter. You're the guy that everyone leans to in order to understand what's going on. You have connections to every level of government emergency services. You have connections everywhere. You have an entire team of assistants below you. You effectively run the province in some ways. It's your job to have a response to this. It's your job to know what's going on. What a fucking joke. This is exactly why the Canadian political order is so woefully fit, because in a time of crisis, these people don't know shit. They don't know anything. They're not willing to disclose any information. They're not willing to say anything, to actually do anything brave. They're just not. Hats off to the EMTs, to the emergency responders, all the people that actually showed up on scene and dealt with this. But the representatives, the people that are actually holding their purse strings, the people that are actually supposed to be in charge with all these levers of power. What a fucking joke. What a fucking joke. And our CBC immediately as this starts blowing out, they already had correspondence that night talking about how this is, in some ways, comparing it to the US. What does America have to do with this?
Involved directly and indirectly.
Yeah, I think about the United States, where first of all they have a lot of school shootings. I mean, if you look proportionally at the fact they have 10 times the population that we do, they still have way more than 10 times the number of school shootings. But very quickly after each of those shootings, it devolves into partisan politics. I don't see that happening here. I don't. But you tell me, in terms of how do you see the political reaction to this unfolding?
Are you seriously doing a fucking play-by-play of a shooting? Like what the political reaction is going to be? Are you fucking kidding me? This is what they do? This is their reaction? Staying off air and eventually providing momentary updates every 15 minutes or something on a scrolling screen would be more useful than whatever the fuck this is. You're getting political commentary on how the left and the right in Canada are going to react to this? Are you serious? The bodies aren't even buried yet. All these people on the left talking about, oh my god, this could get politicized so quick. Our fucking national broadcaster is already politicizing it. They're asking whoever they're interviewing their reaction. Oh, I wonder what the political process is going to make of this. Dropping the U.S. for some reason. That had no relevancy. Oh yeah, that happens in the U.S. But what do you think the people up here are going to think about? Are you fucking kidding me? This is our national broadcaster. This is our national media. This is what our tax dollars are going to. This elevated level of coverage. Why the fuck are you even on the air talking about this? Why are you doing a fucking play-by-play like you're John Madden? I wonder what Pierre's going to say in Parliament tomorrow. What? I mean, I guess it's their job in the 24/7 news cycle, but Jesus fucking Christ, like, wait a day. Even Parliament said that they were going to take a day off. Not to mention, not to mention, but once again, this is not going to have a reaction of the left versus the right in Canada. It's just not. No conservative politician that's looking to get reelected is going to run on the policy that we need to actually take away certain protections for transsexuals or for teenagers that are looking to transition. We need to make sure that misgendering them isn't a crime. They're not going to do that. They're not. And because any policy, right, any policy that they advocate for is going to be struck down with, oh, these people are bigots. They're not sympathetic to the trans people, to their plight. They're bigots. They're transphobic. They have an irrational fear of transgenderism and the ideology. The fact that he's trying to make some fucking political point, Jesus, like, read the room, man. My God, there's not going to be a severe reaction. Nobody's actually going to come out and say what needs to happen. And what needs to happen is we need to have a complete restructuring and rethinking of how we deal with the LGBT in Canada. Right? How do we go about teaching it in schools? Should we even do that? Right? All these discussions need to happen, but it's not going to happen. It's just not. There is no political will for this, especially in a moment like this. And for people saying, "Oh my God, like why is this getting politicized? The right is just going to use this as a football." This is already political. It's been political for years. The left has advocated for this. The NGOs that received government money, right, to have all these programs, to show up at the protests, to do outreach, they've existed and they've been getting funding for years. This shooting right here, this is just a symptom of the problem. We're going to see more events like this. Because once again, when you have someone so hopped up on all these drugs in an extremely vulnerable time in their life, they're going to do something. They're going to overreact. There's no telling what can happen. And here's the RCMP conference. Another one that they had. Should tell you, once again, this is completely just emblematic of how this problem, it permeates every level of society. Every single one.
About the history of mental health with this female suspect. Could you expand on that?
I'll give you perhaps remaining some general comments on that. Police had attended that residence on multiple occasions over the past several years, dealing with concerns of mental health with respect to our suspect. I can say that on different occasions, the suspect was apprehended for assessment and follow-up.
So apprehended under the Mental Health Act?
Yes.
Taken to hospital?
In some circumstances, yes.
Any indication whether or not the suspect was receiving any help for their mental health situation regarding counseling, any of those services that are involved?
I don't have that information at this time if the suspect was currently receiving care. I don't have that information at this time.
Any of the interactions with police, did any of them have to do with weapons?
Yes.
In particular?
Yes.
Could you expand on that, please?
I will say that, again, I'm not trying to be too circumspect, but police have attended that residence in the past, approximately a couple of years ago, where firearms were seized under the criminal code. I can say that at a later point in time, the lawful owner of those firearms petitioned for those firearms to be returned, and they were.
If your people have a 40% suicide rate, regardless of the transition process, you should not be allowed anywhere near a firearm. Right? Can we just make that as a law? If you're part of a group that has 40%, okay, this gets thrown around. Let's fact check it. Fuck it. You know, we're live. Let's fact check it. Is it true that 40% of transsexuals, regardless of transition status, are suicidal? Oh, my mistake. It just says here, the most commonly cited statistic comes from large surveys like the 2015 U.S. Transgender Survey, which found that 40% of respondents reported having attempted suicide at some point in their lifetime. A 2023 Williams Institute analysis reported that 42% suicide attempts among transgender adults in the U.S. Many earlier studies and reviews referenced a figure around 40 to 41%, originating from the 2011 National Transgender Discrimination Survey. This figure refers specifically to lifetime suicide attempts, not completions and not current suicidal status, and it includes transgender people across various stages of transition or none. It doesn't mean that 40% are actively suicidal at any given time. Past year attempt rates are much lower, typically 7 to 14%. Yeah, that's still much higher. That's much higher than any other group. Even if the statistic that I quoted earlier, right, because it's become a meme, it's not fully, like, it's not 40% of transsexuals regardless, you know, are suicidal. No. It's that they've reported a suicidal incident. 40% of them have at some point in their life. And this is adults, mind you. This isn't even counting the kids. And once again, this study was done in 2015. And then in 2023, when they did the follow-up, it's 42%. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it changed much. It's broadly directionally true for U.S. lifetime attempt prevalence in key surveys, but not an exact universal. Fine, fuck it. Even if it's not 40, even if it's 20, even if it's half that, that means that every fifth of them, right? Every fifth transgender person you meet has tried to commit suicide at one point in their life. I really can't say that's true for anybody that I know. Any race that I know, any cultural group, any age group. I like what who else has such a higher rate? I mean, like this issue is so embedded in our culture that we know this. We know that it's not zero. We know that a certain percentage of them will want to kill themselves at one point in their life, and we allow them access to guns. That's a fucking problem. That's a big fucking problem. Once again, yet another question to add to the pile. Why are we tolerating this? Why are we tolerating this ideology? Why are we tolerating this happening to kids? And then later, as they grow adults and then they take it out on society. Why would we allow this to continue being perpetrated? Why would we run the risk of this being permissible? Who does this benefit at the end of the day? If even after transitioning, that suicide rate is still at 40%. At one point in their lifetime, 40% of them will try to commit suicide, regardless of transition status. And this is so just so far embedded in Canadian politics that you can have a news conference like this. This only happened, what, 3 years ago? 2 years ago? In 2024? This is an NDP politician, right? I'll unmute it in a second, but they're basically coming out and they're saying transgender and people of the 2SLGB, whatever fucking alphabet soup they have now, that entire group needs special protections. So beyond just if you misgender them, you can now be taken to court. You can have your kid taken away from you by the government if your wife or your partner decides to sue you for it. If you don't affirm their gender, if you disagree with that, now they're arguing that they need to have specific spaces. Here's the portion of the clip where they actually say that.
LGBTQI plus community safety zone to prohibit within 100 meters of the property any homophobic, transphobic act of intimidation, threat, offensive threats, offensive remarks, protest, disturbance, and distribution of hate propaganda within the meaning of the criminal code. It also comes with it a penalty of $25,000 if prosecuted successfully. Secondly, the Act creates an Ontario 2S LGBTQI+ Safety Advisory Committee to provide recommendations to the provincial government on how to improve safety for our community and to prevent further hate.
Right, so they're essentially saying, right, this person here was advocating that they create special zones where people, if they wanted to protest, drag fucking story hour at the library, which, like, why is it always kids? Why are you always reading to kids? You can't go read to the elderly? You know, I remember very vividly when I went to school at one point during Remembrance Day, my school had a music program and we were asked to volunteer to go play the Canadian National Anthem on Remembrance Day. God, those old folks were just so glad to see another kid because all they see are just their handlers. They're just waiting for fucking life to end in that old folks' home, playing bridge all day long, not going outside. They were just so glad to see kids. Why can't these fucking drag queens go there? Why can't you go and read to some seniors? It's always got to be kids. It's kind of fucking weird that they want to read to kids all the time. Why are you so obsessed with that? It's weird. It's really weird. Like, I don't see any other group in society advocating that they should be able to read to kids. Nobody else is arguing for that right or trying to make it a thing because it's fucking weird. Why would you be so adamant about that? Why do you want to read to the kids? Men and women dressed as the opposite gender. It's always men, by the way. It's always men. It's always men that have these fucking hang-ups. It's like 90% of the time. 90% of the time. Maybe not 90%, but the majority. You get what I mean. And so they were arguing that these people should have even more protections. right? This is what leftism does. This is what suicidal empathy does. And because Canadians are too nice to back off, because if they do, they get called a transphobe, they could lose their job, lose all social contacts, their friends, family, what have you. They risk all of that if they go against this. The fact that this is even being read out loud in a major province, this is Ontario, in the Ontario Parliament, this tells you everything. These people are arguing for special protections. You get to stand on television in front of the nation and talk openly about this. There's an entire month dedicated to you. This is taught in the school curriculum. There are entire NGOs who receive millions and millions and millions of dollars from the Canadian government to attend protests, to create literature, to fund these programs. All the doctors getting kickbacks for HRT and God knows what else. There is so much money and influence being peddled here, and they're still coming out and saying they're being persecuted? Are you fucking kidding me? Your flag flies on most schools. You'll see an LGBT flag outside of just about every storefront that everyone is welcome. If you speak in any way against this, you're a social pariah. You get extricated from society. For the most part. I'm sure if you live in a small town or out west somewhere, they're a little bit more relaxed with that. They don't all go along with the agenda. But for the most part, if you live in a metropolitan area in a city, yeah, you're going to encounter this. And for a whole month, we have to celebrate them and they have a parade, and these people are arguing for even more special protections? What the fuck are you on about? Since when have we heard of anybody going around lynching these people, going around killing them, hunting them down? Like, as if there's some protected species, they're endangered? We got to spend taxpayer dollars on this? Like, this is how far it goes, to the point where a member of a major political party, well, not major, the NDP is not all that major now, but the fact that they feel comfortable, not only comfortable, but right in doing this, and they have all these supporters, dude, this looks like a fucking SNL skit. Look at the characters you have around you. What the fuck even is that? Look at this. This is a fucking circus. Why are they wearing masks? My God, like, Jesus fucking Christ, what, like, why? One kid, two, a disabled black lesbian, I guess, and his white girl. The rest of them are adults. As if anyone's going around and assaulting these people en masse. Like, what? It's fucking crazy, man. Insane. The fact that this is so socially accepted in Canada should tell you everything about this issue. Yeah, there's another freeze frame. My God. And the news are already trying to make this a gun issue. They're already coming out with news stories like this. Mass shootings in Canada have helped prompt changes to firearm laws over the decades. Wow, you don't say. Politicians like to strike when the iron's hot. You don't say. In 1989, a gunman armed with a Ruger Mini 14 and a hunting knife murdered 14 women in Montreal's École Polytechnique, and ever since then, we're reminded of it every single year. Every single year. And I'm not talking about that like in the way to diminish the tragedy. Yeah, none of it should have happened. The guy was a fucking incel chud who wanted to murder women because he hated women, right? Because he felt that women took opportunities from him. Every single year we have an assembly on it. Every single year they talk about it. Right? This is just a tired theme in Canada. We all get it. We know. We remember. And then in the 90s, federal legislation toughened penalties for gun-related crimes and ushered in new measures on acquiring and storing firearms. The Liberal government of Jean Chrétien created a universal registry for firearms, including ordinary rifles and shotguns in the mid-1990s. And right now, they're in the middle of another gun buyback. Like, what? How does this fix fucking anything? You've been trying to do this since the 80s. Sorry, since the 90s. It's been 30 years of gun measures. And the fucking troon got and what I can only assume is probably an SKS or something and still managed to get a gun. I mean, we still don't know what the weapon was. I don't believe they've announced it yet. Some are saying SKS because they saw it in the armory, so I don't want to say that as a fact, but this is what some people are saying. They still managed to get a gun. And you don't even need a gun to do damage. Not advising this, once again, fucking CSIS RCMP, if you're listening, okay? If I fall under some fucking registry for saying this, can't even believe that I have to even say that. If you want to learn how to make a bomb, you can. The resources are out there. It doesn't take a genius to figure out. Anybody that can crack an AI, that can figure out how to get it to prompt properly, it'll tell you how you can make an IED, an improvised explosionary device. Or sorry, improvised explosive device. Once again, just to cover my ass, I'm not fucking advocating for it, but anybody can figure that out if you really want to harm people. Or just bring in a kitchen knife. This isn't like this doesn't stop by putting away or dealing with the weapon. This isn't how any of this gets solved. Gun owners in Canada, when they go to the shooting range, they can't stop. They have to go from point A to point B. It's law. If they don't show up with certain papers or certain registrations or permits or what have you to a shooting range, they will get fined and they will face jail time. The people that own guns in Canada are extremely regulated here. Extremely. Way more than they should be. Considering that an illegal firearm can cross the border, no problem. If you have enough connections in a city, you can get an AK. You can get a pistol. You can get these weapons, and they're all coming from the States. So access to guns actually isn't that hard. It really isn't. And if you're smart enough, you can figure out how to work the dark market, or sorry, the dark web, and have one shipped to you. We're living in 2026, folks. Anybody can get virtually anything online. And the reason that I'm building all this up, right? The reason that I'm building all this up is because the minister, the same minister who is behind the gun buyback program, he was caught on a hot mic talking about it and downplaying it. Not downplaying it, but he was saying that it's useless, it's pointless, and it's actually not at all the policy that he would want. Here's a quote. Canada's public safety minister on Monday defended the government's plans to revive a buyback program for banned firearms, one day after he was caught on tape appearing to question its effectiveness. The guy who's responsible for pushing the anti-gun legislation, for pushing this program, he is shitting on it on tape. He's recorded in conversation saying that it's not worth the money. But they're going to go ahead with the bad policy because it makes for good politics. These people don't give a shit about you. They don't care about you. They don't care. They care about their looks. They care about their votes. These people in power, they do not give a fuck. And I don't mean just the liberals. The conservatives will do the exact same fucking thing with different policies. This uniparty that we live in Canada, they don't care. This man is on a hot mic. This man is on a hot mic literally admitting that the program is shit, and the next words out of his mouth are, quote, that it was a good thing his comments were caught on leaked audio, where he acknowledged that police may not be able to enforce the program that he suggested was only moving forward due to political pressure. My comments were misguided. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, it's important to have the program in place. It's what Canadians are looking for. I mean, once again, I've said this on the show before. Living in Canada, right? Part of the reason why I add so many sources in my stream, right? Like I could just blow it up and just show my face, even though like I'm pixelated as fuck, and I could have all that, right? You know, focus on the studio and all that. I like to have these sources because there are times when I'm just thinking about things in my day to day, and I'm wondering, no, I must be crazy, right? We can't be living like this. Like there's actually no way that this is real, right? And then I read a fucking news story, not from some even if they use the argument, oh, fringe news. What this is global news, major mainstream platform. There's a 25-minute transcript of him saying this, and the key part. Let me play this here. This is incredible, incredible. I bet all my fucking maple bucks that they're gonna get up in front of Parliament tomorrow and start talking about how this is a gun issue. I guarantee it. And he's going to be spearheading the effort. This is exactly why we need to get guns off the streets. This is exactly why we have this gun buyback problem. Even if the gun isn't on the list, even if it's not one of the ones that's being confiscated, they're going to go out and say that. Because they will do anything and everything to push their agenda, regardless if it makes any political sense or not. Even if it is just outright diminishing Canadians' rights and freedoms, they don't give a shit. All they care about is their agenda. That's all they care about. Both the left and the right. We are living in a uniparty. There is no left and right. There's barely a fucking distinction. Let's just give this a listen and you'll see what I mean.
And, unlicensed firearms. So a range of things that we're already going to be doing.
But this is not new. This has been happening for over a decade.
I'll tell you, going forward, it'll be a different approach. Okay, this is completing something that was started 5 years ago. That frankly,
but as the minister, you could sit down with Mark and say, "Listen, there's something we need to address these core issues."
We've had all these conversations. Like I've had for the last 4 months. It's been like constant discussions on this to see what's next, right? And the conclusion is let's finish this because we committed to it in the campaign.
But campaign promises have always been broken in the past.
I know.
So why must you go through on this one?
Look,
just say it.
Sean, the Quebec,
you know it's wrong.
Quebec, for example, is in a very different place than Ontario, right?
We're talking about Canada. It's federal. It's not provincial.
I get it. Quebec is in a different place than other parts of Canada, right? And this is something that is very much a big deal for many of the Quebec electorate that voted for us, right? I mean, that's one of the major things. I think
votes. It comes down to votes. As always, it always comes down to votes. That's when they give a shit. That's when they give a shit. Right now, right this very minute, they are scrambling to figure out how they're going to use this crisis to get them more votes. There's already been talks of an election. There's already been talks of an election. They're going to, mark my words, they are going to use this story, this crisis, as an example of why we need to go even stronger on the gun buyback problem, exactly why it's needed. That's going to be one of their arguments. I guarantee it. There is no way that they are avoiding that conversation. And this man right here is on tape saying, he's acknowledging that, yeah, Carney is just down the hall. He could just go and talk with him and say, hey, I'm actually not going to push for this. I'm actually not going to allow for this program to go through. I'm going to step in and do what my constituents are asking me to. Which, for those who don't know about the gun buyback problem, or gun buyback program, say that 10 times fast. If you do not comply with it, right, they call it voluntary. If you do not comply with it, you will face punishment, either fines or imprisonment. So this is not voluntary. This is not strictly voluntary. They keep saying it's voluntary. They keep saying this and this and that. It's not voluntary, number one. Number two, the people that shouldn't have guns in the first place, the criminals and the insane, they will find a way to get guns. They don't give a shit. The mafia doesn't care, or whatever organized crime we have. Right? The cartel or whoever, the black gangs, they don't give a shit. They will find a way to get these guns into Canada. So all you're doing is you're disarming Canadians. This is all that it's doing. This gun buyback program has cost tens of millions of dollars, and they haven't even seized 100 firearms. And once again, just as proof, let's look this up. What is the current status of seizures via the gun buyback program in Canada? How much has the program costed Canadians? What is it per gun? Not seizures, but seizures slash, what is it? Buybacks slash willing donations. Last I heard, the program was like at least it's going to cost 25 million. Canada Post was at one point in talks to help facilitate the program, but they realized that, hey, we actually have to then deal with the guns. We have to deal with the bullets, the firearm. We have to store it somewhere in our trucks. We have to retrofit all this new hardware. How are we going to do that? How is that even like a plan? How is it even feasible? And once again, the people that are going to get guns, they're going to get them regardless. The cartel and organized crime will find ways to get guns into Canada. They don't give a shit. There was literally just a shooting not even a year ago on Queen Street, on a major street in Toronto at like 2 a.m. There was a shootout with AKs. A pilot program in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia collected only 22 to 25 firearms, far below the target of 200. The program ran from November 2024 to April 2025, collecting and destroying over 12,000 firearms. No updated declaration totals have been publicly released since then, but collections are ongoing for declared firearms. Gee, I wonder why they're not declaring it. I wonder why they're not declaring it. Total cost to Canadians. Holy shit. The federal government has budgeted $742 million. Almost $1 billion to this program. Almost $1 billion to disarm Canadians of guns that organized crime and criminals can otherwise get into the country. I guarantee you, come tomorrow, we're going to see headlines about this. They're already printing headlines about this. I literally just showed it. Here it is. Not even a second ago. Mass shootings in Canada have helped prompt changes to firearm laws over the decades. Yeah, they're going to do the exact same thing. And it's going to do nothing because this isn't a gun problem. This is a trans problem. This is an SSRI problem. This is a mentally ill problem. No well-adjusted person who has a career, a family, some kind of stability and understanding of themselves, nobody's doing that. It's only criminals and the fucking insane. That's the problem that we have to deal with. It's nothing short of lunacy. Anyways, just to kind of switch gears here for a second, just to focus on the shooter themselves. Somebody already found evidence of their Reddit account, which, I mean, this right here, I couldn't believe that I saw it. It turns out years ago, or like last year, Males of Reddit, right, the account, posted the screenshot saying, "Never let your kids watch anime." And then here's a post that's written by a user by the name of JesseBoy347, which this has been corroborated because it's the mother posted the YouTube account of their son right on their page, and it has the exact same username. Literally the exact same username. And the post says, "How do I stop comparing myself to fictional characters? I'm trans, male to female, I'm pre-HRT, 15 years old, and I've been viewing a lot of anime-related content recently. Was never into it before. The characters are always so cute. I don't want to be 2D or anything like the characters themselves, but when it comes to their body shape and stuff, I often find myself comparing their semi-unrealistic yet physically possible shape. Specifically when it comes to height, BMI, and obviously their chesticles. I'm super skinny, so that sometimes makes me feel kind of good, but I'm pre-HRT, and my expectations are minimal for chest growth. I'm 6 feet tall. Why can't I be a petite and small? Side note, if you know anywhere I could get into watching anime, that'd be nice. Never watched it before. Ooh. Does that sound like a mentally stable person to you? Does that sound like anybody that has a good sense of who they are? A conviction that they belong to either male or female categories? Or does that sound like somebody who is going through an extremely turbulent period of their life, which would pass if they didn't get put in on drugs, if they weren't validated? Because once again, right, the problem with this issue, the issue of transsexuals and transgenders in society is that even if they don't have anybody near them, even if they don't live in a community that supports this, they can find this online. They can find this support online. And the people online, you don't know who the fuck they are. You don't know if you're talking to a 50-year-old, a 40-year-old, a 30, however old, groomer, or otherwise. You're interacting with unknowns, and they're putting their faith into them. Here's their YouTube channel. And let me see if I can pull up another post here. Found Reddit at 10 for Roblox subreddit, interested in normal boy things at 13. Transitioned at 15. Starts experimenting with drugs while on SSRIs, right? That post that I mentioned about the shrooms. Shot up at school at age 17. Not even 18 years old, and they get to this rate. Experimenting with fucking DMT while you're on 280 milligrams of an SSRI? Are you serious? I mean, how many more patterns do we have to notice until this becomes a fucking problem? How many more kids have to get shot up? How many more families have to get torn apart until we realize there's a fucking problem? Insane. And here's the archive of their posts. Not to mention, I totally forgot about this. Like, they made a post saying, could someone theoretically get the effects of a substance off an addict's urine? A song I've heard mentions a lyric about someone getting high off of the remaining substance in a user of a given substance's urine. The lyric is not intended to be serious and it's not based on reality, but I am overall curious to how much substance might or can be presented in urine. They want drugs so badly they're willing to drink someone else's piss. Is that a signal of a well-adjusted young man? I don't know. I'm at a loss for words. I really am. How do hash and more modern extracts stack in terms of scent? What's a danger of using 5-MeO DMT alone? I went crazy and burned my house down my second time trying shrooms, but still have a desire to try alternatives. Jesus fucking Christ. It doesn't even matter if they're not even, like I said, in the locale. They don't even have to be in a big town or a big city. They can just find these forums where they talk about this. You know, it's funny. 4chan has this reputation for being patrolled by glowies. FBI, CIA, NSA, what have you. These forums need to be patrolled by glowies. Of all the things that are like this mass surveillance system that we live under, the fact that this isn't on their fucking radar, that's insane. Here's a video of them using the Desert Eagle. First time buying makeup. Do I have a build? Do I have a good build type for HRT? Genuine advice would be appreciated, and they get the fucking comments. Your waist is narrower than your hips already. Wish I'd started HRT when I could still only say that about mine. Let's look up this person. Wow. What a fucking surprise. This is the commenter. I wonder if they realize. I wonder if all of these people that helped egg this person on, I wonder if they realize what role they actually played. Here's the fictional characters post. To be honest, I stopped watching anime in high school because of this. Seeing stick-thin anime people too much used to trigger my anorexia. I still feel weird if I watch too much for that and other reasons. Be careful out there, lol. These people are just openly discussing this. Teenagers are just going on Reddit and elsewhere and getting this information. This is a fucking problem. You know, and I haven't even gotten into their Roblox account, because they had a Roblox account, and this is like, look, I understand that the narrative regarding violent video games and school shooters and whatnot, people have used that to blame it on school shooters. That's not the issue. But this certainly doesn't fucking look good. They made a level called Remember No Roblox, which for anyone that grew up playing Call of Duty, the original series, right, before all this gobbledygook with power sliding and all that shit, there's a level in a game, in one of the games, called No Russian. And it's an infamous level because it asked you at the beginning of playing it if you actually wanted to proceed with it, because it has extreme scenes of violence. Basically, spoiler alert for anyone that hasn't played, what happens is you as the character, you walk out of an elevator in an airport in Russia and you massacre people. You kill them en masse. You shoot them and spray them with a machine gun. No opposition to you. You're just walking around committing a mass murder. And this at the time, there was all these people up in arms. Oh my God, how could they possibly have this in a video game level? This is going to cause radicalization. Look, there is no direct link between this, between a kid playing it in their teenage years, but creating a level so that you can actually play this yourself whenever you want to, that's a whole other thing. You know, it's one thing to work on the dev team of the game and to play your small role in either designing the gun or the level. It's another thing for a teenager to actually go out of their way to make a level like that where they can go around and shoot people. I saw there was somebody that showed footage of the level. I don't know if we're actually going to be able to find footage of people playing it. I don't think it'll be here. But safe to say, this is not something that somebody with a stable mindset does. This is not something a normal citizen or a child does in their free time. You don't just make a game level to massacre as many people as possible and try to recreate that. And once again, the mother, as I posted before, was talking about these behavioral issues. I find at home he also has times where he can be very helpful and nice, and other times he's pretty mean. So that makes me think it's more of a me problem than his problem. We don't spank or yell, so I don't think it's... Anyways, the fact that your mom is putting this out for the public to read, even if it's a private group, I mean, could you imagine getting your fucking ass handed to you by your mom, belt or otherwise, and then she goes about it and posts it on her fucking mommy group for advice? Does this really scream that this is a stable household? It's insane. And you can tell by the post that she's trying to make an effort, which look fine. Like, yeah, I can clown the posts. It's just I find it very strange to like release intimate details about what's happening in your household for the entire world to see, so that everyone knows about this, about how you discipline your kids and what's going on, the things that you're struggling with. Of all the places to talk about, the internet is not one of them. You're getting input from strangers who have God knows what kind of temperament, and you're allowing your opinions about how you raise your child to be informed by that, which God knows how many of them are even real people or just bots. So you're effectively just altering the way that you raise your child based on false data or just false feedback, which is just insane in and of itself. But even that aside, the mom is clearly trying to make an effort, and he still fucking killed her. It's insane. It's insane. And once again, right, just as further proof, she was bought in. She made this post on her Instagram. Good people don't spend their time harassing marginalized communities. Facts. As a conservative-leaning libertarian who lives in the North and loves living in a small town, I really hope the hate I see online is just bored old people and not true hatred. Do better and educate yourself before spewing bullshit online. Makes you look dumb. Evolve. I normally don't say anything, and I normally don't go on Shitbook to see the keyboard warriors, and I know I can't control everything or shield my kids from everything, but please, for the love of fuck, can you please get your shit together so we don't have to bring our kids up in a world full of hatred? Do you have any idea how many kids are killing themselves over this kind of hate? Please stop this bullshit. Hashtag protect trans kids. These people are everywhere. The people that believe in this are everywhere. They're spread all across the entire world. This is not a Canada problem. This is not an America problem. This is not an England problem. This is not a Europe problem. This is a global issue. This affects all of us. Because once again, she's affirming this. Because with all due respect, right? If we're just take a step away from talking about the shooting for a second, asking kids what they want to do with the next 4 years of their lives when they're going into university, even that alone is a struggle for a lot of them. In terms of having the certainty for what program they want to choose, which university they want to go to, what kind of experiences they want to have, what they want to learn. Right? That's what high school and all those years are leading up to. And even then, I vividly remember nobody having a fucking clue. Everyone just hoping that it turns out the way that it should. Hoping that everything they were told up until then in their lives was actually true and it could be counted on and that they were making the right decision. But how could any of us predict university or college or what that experience is going to be like, let alone doing something as monumental as transgendering yourself, turning to the other gender, something that has never, ever, ever been widely accepted by society up until the last 10 years, where we in the West have openly embraced this. We have no idea what the long-term consequences of this is, because guess what? Right, that 40% statistic that I mentioned before, of 40% of trans adults attempting suicide at one point in their lives, What does that happen on a long enough timeline? What happens to the kids that make this transition, that fundamentally altered their biology? They can never have sexual impulses ever again. What does that do to the human psyche? Do we know? Do we know what happens in 5 years, in 10 years, in 15 years, in 20 years? We're just going in with this blind out of a sense of misguided empathy that these people are struggling and we need to give them what they desire instead of just telling them to hold off. Just wait. Wait a couple years. Do your transition through puberty. Right? By that I mean, embrace puberty, go through it. Deal with the struggle like the rest of us have. Why are kids being put on SSRIs just to deal with it? That is not natural. Not only is it not natural, this shooting is exactly what happens. Right? As I've shown you before, his mother supported him, right? The school supported him. There's footage of the RCMP officers going in there, and there's a pride flag in the window. The school is supporting it. The nation is supporting it. They have parades. They have politicians getting up in front of national media and saying these people deserve protection. There is a cultural consensus around this issue. There will not be a split of the left and right in the political sphere in Canada. There will be in the independent circles on Twitter and whatnot. Some people make a stink about it, but realistically, the parties, they're not going to do shit. They're going to go along with it, okay? They're going to let these laws stay as they are. They're not going to do anything. Until a cultural shift happens among the people, until people actually start demanding better of their representatives, none of this is going to get fixed. None of this. This is too far culturally embedded in the fabric of Canada. It's way too far. We have gone beyond the line. Well beyond the line. The only way to turn this back is a massive, radical cultural shift. And this is not going to happen. It's not going to happen as a result of the shooting anyway. It might happen somewhere down the road. It might be more gradual. I have no idea. I can't predict that. It needs to happen. I can certainly advocate for it. And I will advocate for it. Because I don't want to see innocent fucking kids gunned down by a crazy troon. God, I can't even believe what that would be like to lose your life at that young. You don't even get the chance to do anything. The whole time you're going to school and then you're going on summer break. You don't even have a chance to discover yourself as a person. It's fucking heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking, and what's even more heartbreaking is that nobody's actually going to do anything to fix this. Nobody that's in power or has the means to fix this will actually fix this. They will secure their votes. They will secure their political advantage. They will keep pressing on the same issues they've been pressing on for years. And none of this is going to happen until Canadians as individuals, as entire cities, and then eventually provinces, as they realize that this is not sustainable. We can't keep giving into the madness that men can be men and women can be women. Or rather, sorry, men can be women and women can be men. As my good friend Stained Haynes has said, if you believe in that fundamental lie, you will believe in anything. And that is a fact. This mom clearly did everything she could to create a welcoming environment for her kid. Or at least, as we're able to intimate from her social media. I don't profess to know what was happening inside their home. But if you're making a post like this, it's kind of an indicator of where you stand on the issue and how you're going to go about treating this with your kids, right? This was not even 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. And this is what she said. And now she's dead. Her along with 8, 9 other people. She made a post of Tyler Robinson, the Charlie Kirk shooter. She said, "I'm glad I'm not far right or far left. Political extremism blinded by rage is mental." Only moments before posting this. How many kids are killing themselves over this kind of hate? Kids aren't killing themselves because they're hated. They have support groups, okay? They have entire subreddits built for this. They have their Discord and their Roblox. They have their friends. They have their families who are supporting them in this. They have their governments who are advocating for this. Killing themselves. God, that is such a... This non-choice that they tell parents, would you rather have a dead son or an alive daughter? This selling tactic that they have for them, insane. These people should be treated with the utmost sincerity, with the utmost of seriousness. This ideology cannot allow to not only exist in Canada, it must be stamped out. If you want to turn, once again, for like the 6th time that I've said this, you turn 18, 19, right? 19, because that's basically the age of maturity in Canada when you're an adult in most provinces. You want to get that transition? Fine. Go for it. Who gives a shit? Cut your tits off. Do whatever the fuck you want. Not on the public dollar. Pay out of your own pocket. Get that surgery if you want. Fine. Who cares? You're an adult. You can do whatever the fuck you want with your body. If you're a kid, you shouldn't even have access to HRT, to SSRIs. Are you serious? The fact that this is even a normal experience for kids these days, as if they didn't have enough problems. Now they have to deal with being on a 280 milligram SSRI. Gee, I wonder why they turned psycho. And this is just a photo of the parent. See if we can find another social feed here. Yeah, once again, that same post that Matt Walsh retweeted. I mean, I guess, yeah, it just goes to show you, you retweet enough posts from the trans subreddits, eventually some of them are going to be shooters. God, every single one of these people, in every single fucking case, they have some kind of disturbed mental history that exists on the internet. Like I said before, the same way that the surveillance state treats 4chan, this is the exact same way that they need to treat these subreddits. The male to female, the fucking trans guns, these need to be policed. These need to be infiltrated by law enforcement. If we're talking about actually dealing with the issue, the people that actually go ballistic and cause these crimes, you know, it's one thing for police to deal with organized crime and whatnot. They already have entire units set up for that. And for cybercrime. How come they don't actually have any investigative power when it comes to this? I understand that there's a certain level of anonymity that people have on the internet, but for anybody doing a cursory Google search of just the username, he used the same username across like 3 or 4 different platforms. It wouldn't take long for the people that are actually in power, that have all this technology, that have the mass surveillance state at their power, at their whims, rather, for them to figure this out, to put 2 and 2 together. You would hope that, right? Do a wellness check. Maybe it's actually not good that the person saying that they were on HRT and SSRIs, or maybe he wasn't on HRT, pre-HRT. My mistake. Maybe he was never even taking HRT. Right? I shouldn't just make that claim so boldly. Regardless, they're on SSRIs. Doing psychedelics. Burning down their fucking house. Are you serious? That's not just some, oh, whoopsie-daisy story. No, that person needs to get checked on regularly. They need to be made sure that they're not a fucking danger to themselves or the public. Here's another thread. This has been written, I think, some years ago. Or actually, no, this was written up recently by Wesley Yang. Right, the quote here is, the dilemma that the media and police face is this. Should we try to protect the interests of the transgender movement by hiding that the murderer was trans so as not to associate transgenderism with psycho murderers? Or should we try to advance the agenda of the transgender movement by honoring the preferred pronouns of this psycho murderer as we would for any other man who claims to be a woman or woman who claims to be a man? Because that's exactly what happened. They called him a gun person. Our top police force in Canada referred to the shooter as a gun person. They are using the language. They're adopting these ideas. They're abiding by their rules. That should tell you everything about just how prevalent the issue of transgenderism has gotten in Canada politically. It's used as like a hot button issue when not even 1% of the population is trans. It's completely insignificant compared to other groups. Like, why are they getting so much attention? Why are they getting such credence? Why are they getting such support? Why? So that these politicians can parade them around? Can score points with their constituents? Can get votes? I mean, we just saw the public safety minister, his own program that he's defending, that $700 million have gone towards the gun buyback program. He doesn't even believe in it. So what does that say for the entire cultural and political order that props up shit like this, the LGBTQ agenda, whatever the fuck you want to call it? What does that say for how many of them actually believe in that? It's just, it's crazy. And the people that reported on this, wasn't even the corporate media. It wasn't even the corporate media. Last night, right, breaking news at like 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. or what have you, it was Juno News that came out with it. Juno News, an independent outlet, came out with it. The same outlet that's been barred from press conferences, that's been barred from covering these news and getting the press accreditation because they're not considered a legitimate outlet. They were the ones to break it because they actually got contacts within the family. They spoke directly to them, the uncle of the shooter, who confirmed Jesse was transgender and responsible for the shooting that left 10 people dead, including the suspect. And here's the YouTube channel. And then remember that shooting where we never really found out? Where we never found out who, like, what their reason was? They hid the manifesto, even though every single shooter in the US, the moment that they die, the moment that they kill themselves or die by cop, they release the manifesto. It's one of the first things that we see. The moment that it's a trans shooter, they put that shit under wraps. Because it's inconvenient. It's inconvenient to the narrative that these people are the ones being persecuted. When's the last time we've heard of any incident like this where that anger, that level of violence and vitriol has been turned onto the gay community or the trans community? What, that one nightclub shooting in 2016? By that Middle Eastern guy? I forget what it's called. It was something nightclub. Right? Happening in America. An isolated incident. The majority of them are like this. It's rarely violence against them. It's more so that they perpetrate violence against the rest of us. And another incident in the US. A few months ago, police in Burlington, VT issued a missing persons alert for a woman, choosing to honor the gender identification of a man over the duty to provide accurate information that might have saved his life. His body was discovered in a field days later. Yesterday, the police in British Columbia issued a shelter-in-place alert about a woman in dress who went on a murder rampage, killing 10, choosing to honor the gender identification of a male, murdered over the duty to provide accurate information about a murderous threat to the public. A woman in a dress. That's what our government decided to go with. The federal police response. They decided to call him a woman in a dress. In the middle of a crisis, when people are actually getting shot, this is how they respond. This is their directive to the public. Look out for a woman in a dress. I hate to sound like a broken record, but that should tell you everything. That should tell you absolutely everything you need to know about this. That is the length that they will go to protect the lie. Because they legally have to say that. They are obligated to report that. And I guarantee you there's people on the force right now, and for years now, that are vehemently against this. But they can't. Their hands are tied because the whole thing is a fucking political theater. Now here's them shooting that Desert Eagle. The fact that they were even... If you are taking SSRIs, you should be nowhere near a gun. You should have to provide a clean bill of health and a psychological test. I don't understand how that's not commonplace. How is it that you're able to be on extremely high doses of medication like that and you're allowed to be anywhere near a shooting range? It's insane. Some people might think that, you know, the Americans listening, they might think that's too far, with all due respect. Okay, if this is the problem that we're dealing with, I don't know, I'm just spitballing here. But nobody that's mentally ill like this should have access to a firearm. I'm not saying you have to do a psych eval every single time you go to the range, but there's got to be something. We can't just let this happen. Reuters was presenting it as the man who murdered 9 people and then turned the gun against himself is a woman because he said he's a woman. Oh, of course. Yeah, the Reddit account is still up. Pretty sure it's taken down by now. And so this really, like when I was reading this thread, this is what really stood out to me. Let me just allow me to read this. But reality has a way of asserting itself in a million different and often unexpected ways. That's why even if you destroy all women's rights in order to provide relief to these men, because you've decided it's worth it, you actually can't fix what ails them, because what ails them is the fact that they are not women and they keep being reminded of that fact. What ails them is not transphobia, it's the slip-ups of allies, of friends, of family, of life, of reality that reveal the lie. All of these reality-asserting intrusions make them very, very upset. And because gender-critical women are the gatekeepers of so many validating experiences, we get it in the fucking face when we refuse to play along. This right here. This right here is exactly what the problem is. They want to force us to live in their fake reality that they are women or that they are men, and that if we don't affirm that there should be legal consequences, that we have to play by their rules, by their made-up imagination. Trans people will never be real men. They will never be real women. Never. Never. And any attempt to go along with this delusion, to support it in any way, you are only doing a disservice, not only to yourself, more importantly to that person, and then also greater society. Because greater society, the rest of us, we're going to have to deal with those repercussions. How many videos have you seen of these trannies getting up in the middle of a protest or being misgendered and heard their reaction? How many times have we seen that? I mean, like, just look at this example. Okay, does this look like a well-adjusted person to you?
I exist as my true self right now. That's not your true self. That's why.
This. You don't think this is my true fucking self? What the fuck is your true self? You fucking ignorant piece of shit. Is your true self being a little fucking pussy who's shorter and feels insecure about how they are? What? Oh, you don't like coming into people's spaces and getting them uncomfortable for being their true selves? You don't like when people fucking do that to you? Then fucking learn and do that somewhere else and stop coming here, you fucking piece of shit!
Alright, man. I love you.
I'm not a fucking man, and you don't love me! If you loved me, you would put this fucking sign down, you would go walk, and you would thank everyone for being here authentically, as opposed to telling them with your fuckhead sign that they need to fucking convert and no longer exist! Stop fucking ruining pride for fucking everyone! You wanna learn what Jesus said? Love your neighbor as yourself!
His sign literally says Jesus loves you. I mean, I don't know what he was saying or what the context is, but his sign literally says Jesus loves you. That's all that it says. That's all the sign says. That's literally all it says. And I'm gonna see if I can find that compilation, because I do remember seeing compilation of videos today of these people freaking out whenever they're misgendered, whenever they get into an argument, or if they just if they are just threatened in any way. I think I'll have better luck on YouTube, so let me see if I can find one, because this is just but one of hundreds of videos out there where these people are, I mean, like, actually unhinged. Actually unhinged when they are misgendered. Like, just completely unhinged. This is just a reaction channel. No, I don't need a reaction channel. I saw the I saw the video earlier today. I should have bookmarked it, honestly. I guess that's on me. But let me see if I can find it just with a quick scroll. I'm sure it should be one of the latest videos, because once again, like, there's so many examples like this. I mean, the most infamous one is that guy that went to GameStop, and the man behind the counter that was speaking to them misgendered them, and they got gruffly yells, "It's ma'am!" That's an infamous one. I want to see if I can find the actual compilation. Oh, come on. If it doesn't show up in the next little while, then I'm gonna call off the search. But I remember seeing this amazing compilation of them, like, literally just flipping shit. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna be able to find it, and I don't think it's in this thread either. Though this thread is quite long. Yeah. And I'm not liking, the further I go down in just the search for trans, I'm not really liking seeing the shit that's coming up. Oh, here's that example of that that pride flag. The RCMP were entering the school. There it is. Everyone is welcome here. Everyone is welcome here. Once again, just like another extension of Canada's theme for the last, I don't know, I guess 100 years now, just under, of suicidal empathy. This has just become the norm. This is just the norm for these people. Oh, here's another example. Just found it. This isn't a compilation, but this is just one other example.
Kind of aggressive, actually. She! You can leave. Get the fuck out of my face! Okay, turn that on. I think the problem arises when we have females that don't want to play sports against males, and after their objection, the males are still put on the team anyway. We're not men. We're not males. But you guys separate sex and gender, don't you? Yes, of course. So then you'd have to acknowledge that you're a male now. I am not. I don't give a fuck. I am not male. I am a woman. What? Can I ask you what makes you a woman? My mind. Even implying that I'm even a trans person in this place. Off and getting. You can leave. Get the fuck out of my face. Okay, turn that off. Leave. Have a good day.
Yeah, these people are mentally stable. Here's another one.
I'm saying statistics, ma'am. I'm saying statistics. You're so loving and tolerant. I can feel the tolerance that you are. But men.
Yeah, these people are unhinged. And here's footage. This is, I don't know if this has been confirmed or not. I believe this was on the YouTube channel. And this is Jesse. This is the perpetrator of the crime. I'm not even going to play the audio because I think it'd be a little bit too disturbing, but like they're just sitting there and laughing. Yeah, this does not seem like the kind of tendency that we need to support. This is not the kind of thing that we need to support. We can't have these people living in society with us. We can't tolerate this. This is where it leads. Once again, you're on a cocktail of drugs, doing God knows what fucking god dose of shrooms or SSRIs, and they're being told by everyone around them that they're actually not of their body. They're different. Here's the famous incident.
Excuse me, it's ma'am. It is ma'am.
I can call the police if you'd like me to. You need to settle down.
You need to settle down and mind your business, okay? Ma'am, once again, ma'am.
I said both of you.
No, you said sir. Once again, it's ma'am.
I actually said both of you guys. It was a general.
Right beforehand, you fucking said sir.
Sir? Okay.
Motherfucker, take it outside. If you want to call me sir again, I will show you a fucking sir.
I apologize.
Motherfucker.
I apologize now.
I need your corporate number because I'm going to.
This is what we want to. This is what we want to tolerate. This we want to have these kind of people living amongst us. Really? Does this seem like they're adjusting to greater society? You know, if somebody calls me a slur, my immediate instinct isn't to turn around and fucking hit them as hard as I can. I wouldn't say it's the instinct of the majority of people. I guess it depends what race you are, what kind of groups you identify with, but nonetheless, like this is not a normal reaction. These people are mentally unwell. They believe themselves to be something that they're not, and they're doing everything they can. They're grasping at straws, trying to hold on to any semblance of reality, of their fake reality. This ideology cannot be allowed to exist, let alone be supported by a government. And when I say supported, right, I made all these mentions of the NGOs and all these different supports. Look at what CBC Canada had on their fucking... Apologies for all the swearing, but this episode is taking me for a ride. Look at what CBC Canada did for their show that they were featuring for drag kids. That's softcore porn. It might as well be. It might as well, kids dancing around in that one girl in scantily clad outfits, doing all these provocative moves. What the fuck? Like, why is our national broadcaster supporting this? Why are our tax dollars going towards this? Why are we encouraging this kind of behavior? Being a drag queen is something that you come into when you're 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, however the fuck old they are. It's not for kids. What does a kid know about that? You don't even know what career you want to have at the age of 18, let alone what you want to have for dinner the next week. And we're telling them that making this choice, this permanent choice, is fine. We're allowing this kind of show to just exist.
I'm Bracken. I'm a 12-year-old hyper queen, meaning a 12-year-old female drag queen. My drag name is also my real name. Simple.
I'm Jason Kerr, and my drag name is Susan B. Anthony.
My name is Nemes. My drag name is Lactatia.
I'm Stefan, and my drag name is Lady Gaga.
Drag is a lot of things. Drag is a performing art, because you are the canvas.
It's showing who you are, but like with singing and dancing.
I'm sorry, where are these fucking kids performing? Because drag queens, right, for those that don't know, okay, they usually prefer to perform in shady clubs. Or just clubs in general, where adults are allowed, not kids. Where are these kids performing? Are they performing in front of adults? What other kids are going to drag shows? Like, I'm just trying to understand where this, what is the designated area in which they perform? What is the purpose of this? Why are we funding this? Why is this in any way considered okay in Canadian society? You know, it's one thing to be growing up and to have thoughts of, what if I was a woman? What if I was a man? This is a perfectly reasonable question for young people to ask themselves as they're going through puberty, one of the most confusing times of their life. A good chunk of people have had that thought. It's perfectly normal. Women are especially prone to it. The idea of body dysmorphia, as their body changes, they have all these questions. Right? And the case used to be when I was growing up, is that when you had these questions, you didn't have a whole array. You didn't have entire internet forums. You didn't have entire Discord channels set up so that even if you didn't have people affirming you in the reality, right, of your school life, your family life, what have you, we didn't have a place where you can just go on the internet and join all these clubs, join all these organizations. God knows how many of them, which, realistically speaking, the majority of them have adults in them. They're the ones that are steering the conversation. There is no way that the majority of these places are made up by kids. Or even if they are, there's a good chunk of adults in there, which God knows how many of them are actually grooming these kids and taking pleasure in the fact that they're helping them along their journey. We didn't have this growing up. Right? So if you had these feelings, you kind of waited until, high school to kind of, let them pass, maybe experiment something in college, and then eventually choose something in your 20s. We didn't have these surgeries, these lawsuits against the genders you can identify as, your pronouns. But now, because this is commonplace, this is in the legal system in Canada. This is considered a human rights issue in some cases. Now it's just everywhere. And I know this for a fact. Through a family connection, okay, I know for a fact that kids are actually getting openly encouraged to go to pride parades. Like, openly encouraged to go to pride parades. And I don't even have to show any explicit photos. Everyone knows exactly what's going on. Okay? There's this photo that was going around of Mark Carney at a pride parade. This man was in a thong. They don't even have the full photo. They don't even have the balls to show the full photo. Yeah, of course. That's not one of the ones that they showed. Of course. Of course. Let me see. Yeah, there it is. There's the real photo. That's our prime minister, ladies and gentlemen. That's their ally. Hugging a man wearing nothing but a thong. This is our country. This is what we have to deal with. These people are in full support. They are in full support. Justin Trudeau was openly supportive of this. I mean, I showed that one video. That was actually, funnily enough, they tried to do a copyright strike on it. Those fuckers. Where I showed the prime minister going on the drag queen show. He was in open support of it. He walked with the people on the pride parade. And once again, my stance on this has always been, whatever you want to do in the privacy of your own bedroom, fine, whatever. I'm not asking for a law to ban anal sex, to ban homosexual sex, to ban transgenders. This is not at all what I'm advocating for. What I'm advocating for is getting this away from the kids. Children have nothing to do with this. And like I said, I have it on good authority. I know through personal connections that kids in schools are being asked to show up to pride parades. They are openly encouraging this in the classroom. The public education system is flawed with this, just through and through. The books that they have in the libraries, on Pride Month, all the things that they celebrate, the teachers openly talking about their experience. This is in every facet of Canadian society, American society as well, but as long as we're focusing on Canada, right, this is in every single institution. Every single one, especially the government. I mean, and the worst part of this whole scandal, the worst part of this whole shooting incident, is that the moment that anybody tries to say what I'm advocating for, right, that actually we should kind of cool it. We should kind of cool it. We should stop inviting kids to this shit. We should stop involving kids with this. We really should. It's not a good influence on them. We should really stop putting children on SSRIs. We should really stop putting children on hormone replacement therapy. We should really stop cutting their tits off. Or at least openly encouraging them to do so when they turn of age. Right? We really should stop doing that. The moment that anybody says anything like this, they are ostracized. They are ostracized. Okay? Just recently, like the other day, there was an incident where a woman in Brazil, she's now facing up to 10 years in jail for instigating the fact that men cannot be women. Quote, her full name is Isadora Borges de Aquino Silva. She's 34 years old, a veterinary student, and a self-described feminist. Federal prosecutors argue that those posts that she wrote warrant criminal prosecution. If convicted on all counts, Borges could receive a prison sentence ranging from 4 to 10 years. The posts appeared on X, then operating as Twitter, during a period of intense online debate over gender theory. One message stated that transgender women were obviously born male. Another said, a person who identifies as transgender retains their birth DNA. No surgery, synthetic hormone, or clothing change will change this fact. And she has a prison sentence in her home country for up to 10 years in jail. 10 years. for talking about reality. Once again, whatever, shit Jordan Peterson has gotten in the last few years, ignore that for a second and just recall back to what he was saying back then in Parliament, that if we start telling people that they can tell us how to refer to them and then start putting it into the legal code, this is what will happen. When you put consequences, actual consequences, jail time, fines, what have you, seizure of assets, behind the fact that misgendering someone can now be considered a crime, this is what happens. Now you start jailing people for misgendering people. Where's the accountability? When are people going to realize this is too fucking far? When are we actually going to realize that we can't make a man out of a woman and we can't make a woman out of a man? I don't know. Like, I don't want to ramble on for too long here, because this whole thing, right? Once again, we started from the left, right? The extreme left, the leftists. They cannot be reasoned with. They cannot be bargained with. They cannot be admitted or accepted into general society, because their ideas, right, about how we should run society, how the economy should run, what cultural ideals we should hold, all these things, right, all these beliefs they hold, they have no bearing in reality. They have this idea of this cosmic justice. They believe that we should affirm everyone. And where does that lead us? It leads us into confused kids on God knows what kind of drugs. This fucking 15-year-old is talking about doing DMT, the shooter. Talking about doing DMT. Got access to 3 grams of shrooms. That's not an average experience for a kid. To be put in a psych ward after burning down your own house? And the concerning part of this whole thing, right? The reason why this matters, because they're going to try to say this is an isolated incident. This is a 1 in a million shot. This rarely happens. We can't use this to paint the brush of the whole trans community. The fact that this is even a 1% of them, the fact that even 1% of these people go psychotic and take it out on society, that needs to be treated with the utmost sincerity and the utmost seriousness. This is a problem to be dealt with. This is not an affliction that we have to affirm. With all due respect, once again, for like the 10th time I'm mentioning this, you want to turn 18, 19, you want to go about your business as an adult, by all means. Cut your tits off, cut your dick off, get recircumcised, whatever. Do not push this on children. Do not push this on impressionable children who are trying to navigate the social hierarchy in school. Then you add this mix of drugs, the SSRIs, this fact that they can choose whatever identity they want to belong to. How does this help them in any way? How does this help the community in any way? Because there's a chunk of the trans community that isn't crazy. They're actually not insane. They do believe themselves to be in a different body, to be a different gender. There's a small percentage of them, I would argue, smaller than the rest of the group, that actually do legitimately live this reality. But even they aren't crazy enough to think that kids should be in charge of that decision. Even they aren't crazy enough to do this. And I know this for a fact, right? I know this for a fact because whatever people say about Matt Walsh, that documentary that he did about what is a woman, for those that haven't seen it, it perfectly encapsulates exactly what I'm talking about. Because at the end of the documentary, he meets with someone, a trans woman, who says, no, I will never be the opposite gender. No matter how much I try, no matter how many surgeries I get, no matter what pills I take, I will never be the opposite gender. But my body is screaming, these are the feelings that I'm dealing with it, so I'm just trying to process it day by day. This is a mental affliction. This is a mental illness. This is the way that we have to see it. If somebody goes to the doctor and says, I identify as a balloon, the doctor's job isn't to get a tank of helium and start sticking it up their ass. Their job is to figure out, okay, how can I make this person be able to navigate life while also dealing with this belief? How do I make it so that their life is livable? Not whatever the fuck we're doing. I mean, my God, the fact that it's even in law, in our legal code, for parents to be dealing with custody issues, and the state will side on the side of the parent that is supporting the transition. There's not even an argument about that. And the father, in that one case in BC, he can't even talk about it to the news. He can't even plead his case to the public. He has no way of getting support whatsoever. What kind of a country does that? So at the end of the day, like, look, I understand that this episode has been a huge black pill, and it really is at the end of the day. It is, because in order to change this tide, in order to actually change this, right, the cultural understanding that people have of just, like, not even getting into fucking two-spirited or any of those other crazy sexualities, just the transsexual problem, right? And it is a problem. It is 100%. We should not have a growing percentage of our youth questioning this fundamental idea of whether or not they're men or women. Like, we really should not. This should not be a common talking point. This shouldn't even be a major cultural issue, and yet here we are. Yet here we are, to the point where the federal police have to acknowledge the person's, the way that they identify in their alert as people are trying to get cover, as people are trying to survive the incident. The alert that goes out on their phone saying that a woman in a dress is going out and hunting people. That's what they see in their last dying moments, is that alert. It's still affirming the gender of the person that is perpetrating this crime. It's nothing short of insane. This needs to be rooted out from society from within. We shouldn't have any level of government funding that goes towards supporting this. We shouldn't have any level of cultural influence that goes towards supporting this. The people that are dealing with this affliction, the people that are suffering, as they say, they need to be dealt with as a medical problem. This is not a voting issue. We shouldn't have politicians worrying about what they'll say, tripping themselves up over words, misgendering. That shouldn't even be a concern. Why are we wasting airtime on this? There are bigger issues. The fact that this even happened in the first place. One of the worst shootings in Canadian history that never even needed to happen. It didn't have to be this way. It really didn't. And people are going to be doing all sorts of mental gymnastics. Mark my words. They're going to be doing all sorts of mental gymnastics come Pride Month. And not even come Pride Month, but just come tomorrow. No, this isn't the whole trans community. No, this isn't a problem you have to worry about. Guns are the problem. Mental health is the problem. The police are the problem. They weren't doing enough. No. No, the problem is that we have a subset of the population that believes themselves to be something that they're not, and that they never will be, and that if you go against that, if you do not affirm their belief, you will face prison time, you will have your kids taken from you, you will have your reputation irrevocably damaged, you will not be able to find housing, you wouldn't be able to find a job, your friends will get rid of you, your family will disown you. And I realize that sounds extreme, but I wouldn't be surprised if that was an experience for some Canadians. For people that disagreed with this, that stood up to it, that went against this, that they end up losing everything. Once again, why do you think that my face is pixelated? Why do you think I don't reveal my name? Why don't say my name? Because in this country, it's dangerous to do that. In this country, you can't speak openly and have this opinion. You can't. You're considered a social pariah. You're canceled. And I wouldn't be surprised if this eventually later comes back to bite me in the ass, this whole episode. If there's some consequences brought to my life because of this. And I honestly, I don't give a shit. I don't care. You know, it's one thing to be an adult that's struggling with that. I don't know what that's like to deal with that level of gender dysphoria. Right? I have no idea what that sensation must be like, because that's not a thought that I've ever really had. But for a teenager to not only have that thought, but to have those support programs in place for their own parents to be affirming of it, the country they live in, they fly the flag every year for an entire month. The school that they go to is affirming of it. I mean, they have all the supports that they need. Right? This whole argument flies out the window. Oh, they were too bullied. They didn't have enough support. What more support do you need? We literally have a national documentary airing at our national broadcaster talking about fucking drag queens. Our prime minister is walking in pride parades. What more support do these people need? It's written into law that if you misgender them, there is a penalty that's placed upon you. What more support do these people need? Maybe the problem isn't the lack of support. Maybe they're the fucking problem. Maybe their mental illness is the problem. Have we maybe considered that? Is that an option that we can think about? If we're actually going to tackle this topic seriously, if we're actually going to sit at the table and come to some solutions and some agreements, is that not the first thing that we should start with, that this is a mental illness? It's literally in the DSM-5. The psychological, the handbook every psychology student reads. Gender dysphoria. It's literally a mental disorder. What more needs to be said? This is a mental illness problem. You don't get to identify as something that you're not and have it affirmed. This is exactly what happens in that case. And so 9 people die, 10 people, however the fuck many. 25 get injured. Their lives snuffed out before they could even do anything for themselves. Before they even had the opportunity to do anything that every kid should have the chance to do. His own mom, his own brother, dead, gone. We are lucky enough to wake up tomorrow and to breathe the fresh air, and they're not. They're in the ground, or soon to be. And there's not one person that we can blame for this. There's not one system. There's not one thing. But this has been a collective effort. This has been a collective effort on the part of the education institutions, the governmental institutions that support this, and all the NGOs that get funded by this. And I'll do a whole deep dive on it, because there is a treasure trove of evidence out there that people like Andy Lee have reported on, where you can actually see millions of dollars getting sent to these NGOs who are then staging the protests to talk about trans issues, to talk about gay issues, to talk about drag queen issues. I mean, I showed you footage earlier of an NDP representative in Ontario getting up in front of Parliament and saying that we need to create zones. We need to create actual zones of land, right, an aura field, so that you can't have people protesting this. So if you want to voice your concerns about a bunch of grown men pretending to be women reading shit to kids, which, once again, why is it always kids? Why do you insist on reading to the kids? That's fucking weird. That's really, really weird, man. That's weird that the drag queens are really imposing on this. And I'm sorry if I'm not as collected as usual. Show got interrupted early on with the fire alarm and everything, and this is just the further that this story goes, and we will see a lot more coverage of it in the future, and I will be returning to this story certainly. Just the worse it's going to get, because here's what's going to happen, okay? And I think I'll finish it off with this. Here's what's going to happen, right? If I can make a prediction, CBC and most of the major news outlets, they're going to do their very best to err on the side of caution regarding the social media and the presence of the shooter on Roblox and Reddit and so on and so forth, right? They're going to do their very best to lightly touch on the fact that this psychosis that people have, this idea that there's something they're not, exists on the internet, and exposure to the internet, whether it's hardcore pornography or otherwise, at a very early age, can affect you extremely negatively. They might make a mention about the drugs or something, but it's always going to be dancing around the topic. It's going to go in the direction of mental health. It's going to go in the direction of access to guns. This is why the buyback program needs to be expanded. This is why mental health services need to be checked up on, and more funding needs to be done. But they're never going to get at the core issue. And the core issue, once again, is this. We have a certain subset of the population that believes themselves to be something that they're not. They are encouraged by the media, they are encouraged by the cultural elite to go into this journey and discover themselves. And if they don't find people that are close to them, they can go on the internet, they can go on Reddit, they can find plenty of people on Discord, Reddit, what have you, on Roblox, where they can openly talk about these issues, they can find these supports. The government will produce media that will help them affirm themselves and who they want to be. The doctors will put them on SSRIs. All of these machinations, right? The judicial system will defend them if they're misgendered. They're not going to talk about that. They're not going to talk about the legal framework. They're not going to talk about any of the things that actually matter when it comes to dealing with this issue. No amount of seizure of guns, no amount of mental health funding, no amount of this will fix it until Canada and Canadians are ready to say that men cannot be women and women cannot be men. Until that is a common belief in this nation, none of it matters. None of it. Absolutely none of it. So with that being said, I think I'll just end it off here because I don't know how much there is to say. Like I said, I'll be revisiting the topic in the future, potentially this Friday, depending on what else comes out. But just from what I've seen so far, it's not looking good. It really isn't. And by that, I'm not trying to downplay what happened, and I'm not. I don't mean to trivialize to make it trivial or trivialize it. But this issue has been political. Do not let anybody fool you into saying that, oh, the right is going to use this as a talking point. The right in Canada is going along with this. They are supportive of this. The Conservatives had their chance for all these years to speak out against these issues, and because they wanted votes, they decided to fucking babyface it. They decided to just panhandle it. They decided to glad handle it, to be nice about it, to not stink up a storm. And that is the exact opposite of the energy that we need to have if we are to solve this. Because as I said before, right now, right this very minute, there are dozens, if not hundreds of kids across Canada who are dealing with the exact same struggle. Because this hasn't stopped. Right? They're dealing with that cocktail of drugs. They're dealing with that depression, that dysphoria, dysmorphia, whatever. They have their social groups that are supporting them. They have their online forums that are supporting them. Their teachers are affirming them. Their parents are affirming them. They have all these support systems. What happens to them in 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the line? When a chunk of them, right, because it's not everyone, right, all these transitions, that's not everyone that goes perfect. There's a good chunk of them that are going to realize, holy shit, I made a mistake. What happens to them? What happens to the psyche of a human being that, having made a decision in their youth, now has to pay for it for the rest of their life? And they are forever changed. Their biology is forever changed. Their physical being is forever changed. What happens to the psyche of a human being that does that? How many of them will turn to society and be kind to them for what they did to them, for what they affirmed of them, for what they supported? I really don't think, and I hate to be pessimistic and doomerist on this one, but I really don't think it's going to be that much longer until we see this happening more frequently. Just think about the anger that someone would have, or the state of mind that they would have to transition into do all these things and still have a 40% suicide attempt rate at some point in their lives. And what kind of a person, what kind of things that kind of a person can do if given the means. And if that doesn't convince people that that this is not this is not a gun problem. Okay, this is not a protect trans problem, that we're not affirming them enough. It's actually quite the opposite. It's very much so the opposite. And I guess we'll finish. Like I said before, if you guys want to support the stream, I always appreciate that people just like, comment, and subscribe. Appreciate every single one of you that's been tuning in thus far. If you want to go a step further, you're more than welcome to donate, but do not feel obligated to. If you want to have any of your questions read on stream, just go to either the PayPal link or the crypto link that is in the description or in my bio. Let me just check one last thing and we'll head it off here. I hate to end episodes like this because it's sad and none of it needed to happen. Like, at all. This could have been avoidable at multiple instances. Like, we really should not have this as even a potential reality in Canada, and yet we live in the society that we do because of it. And sometimes, yeah, you have to take the black pill to realize why the white pill matters. So look, at the end of the day, just be glad that you have the chance to wake up tomorrow and live, because there are now 10 more people that do not have that opportunity. Kids that don't have that opportunity. So be thankful for what you've got, and yeah, I guess I'll sorry. I guess I'll see you guys on Friday then. I do have an interview. Actually, I might as well say it now before we head off. I have an interview with none other than Krutik. We'll be covering some stuff regarding the India-Canada dynamic. He's been on the show before, done other episodes. Highly recommend you guys check him out and listen to the other episodes that we've done. This is going to be an interesting one. And then Friday nights, I have another stream planned for then as well. So we'll see you guys then. And yeah, once again, just be glad that you get to wake up tomorrow and breathe and be alive. And there's lots of work left to be done. Because this suicidal empathy, there is a point of no return. There is a point where this is unsustainable, and it will quite literally kill our society from within. It's not just our children that will die needlessly to this. It's not just our mothers and fathers that will die needlessly to this. If we allow this to propagate, if we allow leftism and all its various tendrils to push itself through society, through culturally dominant forces, this is the end result. Mentally ill people shooting innocents. And we have to do better. So yeah, with that, I'll see you guys on Friday.